lines of the reflection of the radar itself. That's a wave that you're seeing there, but it's a mathematical representation of what's being picked up on the radar. But still, it's worth paying attention to because we tend to see the storms form along those lines. Yeah, it's new high-tech stuff. It goes all the way back to the 1980s. It turns out Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Bearden from U.S. Missile Command was not lying. It turns out he was not making anything up. But we're not here to talk about that, although that is what resulted in my shutdown. Now, check it out. We were looking for new activity to develop on the southeast side of the Indo-Australian plate. And if you paid attention to my update, I did an update a couple days ago, and we were talking about the outside edge plate boundary of the Indo-Australian plate. I'm going to do a little seismic update for you guys here now. So if you're a new viewer, if you're somebody who's looking for a seismic update, you're about to get one. So assuming they don't shut me off, right? Who's they, right? Well, in case you didn't hear, apparently going back to 2018, I just found this out this week, Donald Trump doesn't like me, and neither does Elon Musk. And neither does Joe Biden. So apparently it's all the way around. It has something to do with the oil and gas industry and my discoveries on the fracking problem. Okay, with the earthquakes and the fracking. Okay, that got me into some hot water. And then when Halliburton made the offer and I turned them down and outed them, that didn't help things. Turns out 2018 was a bad year. Like if we bottled any wine that year, we would just break the bottles and just move on. That all being said, let's get a display capture turned on so that you can see what I see ever so slightly better. We're going to jump out of the personal realm of what's going on with me, and we'll get into this. So take a look at the activity. If you did not know, a few days ago, we were talking about watching the outside edge of the plate boundary of the Indo-Australian plate. India here, Australia here, Indo-Australia. And around the outside edge is the plate boundary, the red lines, as we just show them here. This is the USGS plate boundary map. And we were looking for the south and southeast side to show a compensation as to what happened up here on the west and northwest side. Right here, we had an 8.0 earthquake strike just a few weeks ago, caused devastating damage, and it was felt all the way up into China. It was felt as far southeast down into Thailand. It was as far west as eastern India right here. I mean, it was just 1,000 miles, actually, around the area felt the earthquake, and then just devastating damage in the middle of it all. So that was an 8.0 earthquake that struck there. Then a 7-point-something struck back over to the east, over here. 6.5s struck on the north side of the plate boundary here, next to Papua New Guinea. And then up on the north side, up here next to Japan, a new 6.5 popped off on the plate boundary. So it was a series of 6s, 7s, and 8s popping off on the north, northeast, and far north side of the plate boundary, and that led me to talk about the south side of the plate boundary. Usually when one side of a plate starts moving majorly, within a few weeks we see compensation movement, or less. Usually within the week we start to see it, but then we see other similar sized earthquakes break out on the opposite side of the plate, the antipode on the opposite side of the plate, from one side to the other as it moves in a short period of time. We're not talking about taking months for this. It takes about a week for this to happen. So it's no shock we get a new near 7 striking right down. Let's zoom in and show you where it struck. There's our letter X. The letter X is located on the end of the plate boundary. Let me show you where it is. The letter X is right down here at the south tip of the plate boundary, south of New Zealand. And we don't move the X. The X stays there. We watch for earthquakes to spread down to this point, and it's filled in. Now let's go back and look at the earthquakes. This new 6.8 popped off at the halfway point between our two previous earthquakes that struck around the same time within the same 48-hour period. A 6 struck down south first, then a 6.2 struck up north, and a 6.8. They all struck within a day and a half of each other. Again, we'll read this timeout on this. This was on the 27th at 9:22 UTC. And then on the 29th at, let's wait for this to refresh, make sure we have the most current information, 13:16 UTC on the 29th. And then 14:53 on the 29th, just a couple hours later, hour and a half later. So first this one, the day before, then this one the next day, and then an hour and a half later, boom, in the middle, in between the two, the standing wave comes up between the two previous fracture points. Now, if you understand standing waves, this will make a lot of sense. The middle point breaks between the two previous waves. But in this case, we're talking about a piezoelectric. I'll get it right someday, guys. Down in the plate, there's an electrical charge that passes through the plates, and it's very low frequency or ultra low frequency, electrical in nature, though. But it's physically traveling through these red lines. These red lines, the plate boundaries, are acting like a wave guide in your microwave would guide a microwave to your food inside of the Faraday cage to cook the food, only in this case, it's a very low frequency wave that's spreading out thousands of miles, and at equidistant points spreading out, we get earthquakes precipitated at the wave height points. Simply put, a wave spreads out and it drops off earthquakes along the way. Where's it spreading from, though? Where's it coming from? It's coming from down below the plates. See these earthquakes which are raised high off the planet here? These are all deep earthquakes, deep down below the plates or at the bottom side. Think of these deep earthquakes like down at the bottom of the plate. Something's causing those earthquakes down at the very bottom or underneath the plate in the asthenosphere, which is a semi-melted area down below the plates. And something's going on down there. That's where the deep earthquakes are. Then, next to the deep earthquakes, up above them, about a day later, we see shallower, larger earthquakes come up next to where the deep earthquakes happened the day before. So first something happens down below, 4 point something. Then up above, a magnitude larger, coming up out of the fluid and going up into the solid, we get an increase in magnitude. Think of it like this, a wave going across the ocean, and then it hits a rocky shore. The wave energy is maintained going across the body of water, but then it crashes against a physical object, and the wave energy is realized against the object. So the crashing of the wave, the energy was in the wave the whole time, but then it hits something, and that's where you get the fracture. And that's what happened here first. 5.9, 6.0. Wave went down. It came up from down below. Think of it like this, coming up from the basement, coming up to the first floor, and traveling all the way down here. When it gets down to the plate boundary, it reflected into itself. Boom. 6.2 goes back up and reflects off the south side of New Zealand. And an hour and a half later, boom, a greater earthquake strikes in the middle point between where it reflected off of, where it went back to, and reflects back into itself. A standing wave can also be described as a feedback loop. Another way to think of it, like if a sound wave gets picked up and put back through a sound system electronically at the speed of light and comes back out, audio wave gets picked back up, put back through, it increases in amplitude. And simply put, that's increase in magnitude. Amplitude, magnitude, synonyms, but not exactly the same. What else is going on? How about the earthquakes going down through Texas and up the East Coast? Now, this one is, again, the North American craton. The earthquake activity goes down through Texas and up the East Coast. This is one of my biggest discoveries. Got me in hot water with a lot of professors. They said it was random chance. That was 15 years ago. I tried to show it to them. Anyway, well, up until I came along, everybody thought earthquakes were just randomly happening all over the place. And it turns out the wave that's causing the earthquakes, this electrical wave in the plate, is actually a standing wave, and it's guided around things, and it's not random. That being understood, then we can understand if something's coming from somewhere and it's going to somewhere and we know the path it's going to take, then we can start doing forecasting like flooding or like for tides or any other natural process. So look at it going down through Texas and up the East Coast. So a new earthquake popped off over here, somewhat more rare. It doesn't happen all the time. Maybe a few times a year we start to see activity over here. A 3.1 struck in New Mexico at Look, I'm not known for pronouncing things properly, especially stuff like this. Voguita? Butchering it, of course. Let's go over to Google Earth and go see what's nearby this location south of Albuquerque. I should get my wife in here on this one. She's going to be mind blown. Hold on. Hey, babe. An earthquake just struck down by Albuquerque. Yeah, why don't you come on in here? I'll show you where it is. Yeah, okay, I'll wait. My wife's going to be mind blown about this. Absolutely mind blown about this. So, new earthquake is struck. New earthquake is struck over here at New Mexico. Hey, USGS. Guys, You know what? I was talking with the wife, and we're looking to buy a vacation home. I'm going to find wherever you calculate your magnitudes from, and I'm going to buy a freaking Airbnb right next to you, freaking jerks. Okay? And I'm going to come there and party. You'll smell me a mile away. I smell like a hippie. You know what Ronald Reagan said? I smell hippies. So let's go look up this earthquake down at Viguita, and it's a 3.1 in New Mexico. All right, babe, let's do it. I mean, look up the earthquakes. Trolls will use that. I'm like, come on, babe, let's do it.
Yeah.
I mean, look up the earthquakes.
Yeah.
Where's this taking us? It's amazing. I can't believe it. Look at this. It's a hold on. Let me just make sure. Is this the VLA? Is this the very large array? Hold on. Hold on. It is. It is. There's the earthquake. Here's the very large array right here. There it is.
How many miles?
How many miles is it? Yes, good question. Let's get a measurement from the middle of this. Only my wife will get why this is so important that I'm showing this right now. It's almost like God is sending a message to us or something. How many miles is it? It's a secret. Wait, are these power lines right here? High voltage power lines? What's going on right there? I don't know what we're looking at here, but let's see. 55.2 miles. 55 miles.
Okay.
How many kilometers? Let's do it in kilometers. 88. It's probably 88.8 if we wanted to, like, those scumbags would totally do that. What's this over here? Geothermal, or what do we got going on? Mining? Chicken farming? What are we doing? This looks like some kind of cattle or something, right? Like that looks like some kind of farming. What we're looking for is any large arrays of any kind, aside from the giant VLA. Now, here's a story on this. This is just mind-blowing. Okay, thanks. I just wanted to show you that rare earthquake struck there. Yeah, you're done. You're all good. Are you mind-blown yet? After last night and tonight? Okay. You want to talk about demonstration of power, right? So here's the deal, guys. A few years ago, a rare earthquake struck just east of the Very Large Array. And the Very Large Array, you may remember it. You may have seen it in things like the movie Contact, right? Where they're listening with it. These are giant ears. They're listening with these. They're not transmitting out with these. As far as I know, there's no transmitter here. I mean, there may be like a test transmitter of some kind at this location, but these are for listening. So this is a spot where they're listening intently, and they have it out in the desert on purpose because it's a quiet area radio-wise, supposedly, to listen-wise, for things coming from space. But a rare earthquake struck next to the VLA, right over here somewhere, just east at next to one of these peaks, and it was in the 4.0 range. Now, the weird thing about this was the VLA was being used, a portion of it was being used to listen for something coming from Jupiter. And what were they listening for using a portion of the VLA was to a high frequency portion of the VLA was listening for a return of a signal that was beamed out from Alaska. Alaska, University of Fairbanks, Alaska, used the HARP facility, the HAARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, the antennas up in Alaska. They used it to create a ball of plasma up in the upper ionosphere, like they normally would do with ionospheric research. And they were able to pulse from ground level, HARP, like normal. They can tilt and bend the beam much like 5G almost, but on a much more powerful basis. And they were able to vibrate the plasma bubble up in the ionosphere to create low frequency. That's how HARP creates low frequency. And tilt it not towards Earth, but tilt it away from Earth and project out very low frequency at a tremendous amount of power towards Jupiter. And they bounced a signal off of Jupiter from HARP, from the VLF. From the high frequency facility, they created VLF using the plasma in the atmosphere, in the upper atmosphere, ionosphere, and then vibrated that, and it went out and went to Jupiter and reflected back off Jupiter, like a radar would reflect off of a storm far away. And the signal came back, and they listened for it at two locations. One was the portion of the VLA in New Mexico, and the other was out here in Death Valley, out here in California. Let's see. Right in here, there's a telescope array in here. Let's see if I can find it. That's not it. We're digressing. I don't need to show it to you. It's in here somewhere. There's just like the one in New Mexico. And they listened at this one in California in Death Valley and the one in New Mexico for the return signal from HARP. And it worked. And the University of Fairbanks published their studies, and they were able to bounce the signal off HARP and back. They also did it off the moon, but they did it much further off of Jupiter. So I was very interested when this happened because you guys know my research of the controversy and all that stuff with the HARP, HARP in Alaska versus the HARP rings, the slang term of the radar stations pulsing. So I'm very interested in the HARP topic to begin with. And hearing that they were beaming it off Jupiter really, was a big deal because they said it was just for ionospheric research. Turns out we can beam it off Jupiter. Okay, well, that's a big deal. So we're all watching and we're waiting to see what happens on the day that they did the experiment. And on the day they did the rare experiment and they were listening for it to come back, the rare 4.0 earthquake struck next to the very large array in New Mexico. Down here. So right next to it, somewhere over here east, just east of the very large array, the 4.0 something earthquake struck there. And then same day, the same sized earthquake, 4 point something, struck out here in Death Valley, which is somewhat more regular. I mean, we get more 4.0 activity in California. We get one every few weeks in California somewhere. We get a 4. But in this case, it struck right next to the array, same size. They were both 4.2s. So they're not devastating sized earthquakes or anything. But to get two 4.2s on the same day next to both arrays when they're listening for the return signal from HARP, and HARP beamed out the very low frequency. Now, why does it matter? Why does it all matter? Well, the very low frequency is what I'm talking about being down in the plate. Very low frequency, ultra low frequency. And there's a match. We tend to see earthquakes also next to electrical power stations, nuclear, solar, wind, coal and gas-fired power plants, turbines. Okay, we see earthquakes next to them and following the transmission lines spreading out from them all over the world, not just in the United States. Give an example over here in Chicago at the Byron, Illinois. Let's search it here. Byron. The only reason I know about this location is a tritium leak occurred at the Byron nuclear power plant here. And when it happened, my viewers were concerned. People contacted me. I live down in St. Louis, Missouri, about 5 hours away from here. And I have the Geiger counters. I'm the only U.S. citizen who drove across the country taking readings after Fukushima. I was featured on NBC News, in case you don't know. And let me show this to you. So we'll go search Byron, Illinois, Dutch Sense. That should bring it up. There we are. Radiation test directly next to the Byron, Illinois nuclear power plant. I drove up there to take radiation readings with my Geiger counters just because people were curious and the mainstream media was, of course, not talking about it at all. Let's just... And I am literally right here, maybe a quarter mile down the road from the nuclear power plant. Okay, so took the readings, low levels, all good. Just like Fukushima, it was all a bunch of hype. So everybody was worried that Fukushima was going to be causing major damage in the United States. And I took readings all the way over to the West Coast in the rain right after Fukushima happened, blowing up into the sky. and we got normal radiation levels. It turned area, but it didn't blow around the world like they thought it was going to, which is good. Otherwise, we'd all be gone, right? So why are we talking about this? The earthquake that struck next to this place up here at Byron, Illinois. Before I could even get in my car and drive up the next day, a 2-point-something earthquake struck next to the nuclear power plant there at Byron. They turned off the reactor and put all the energy into the ground, basically dumped the ground. I don't know how many gigavolts of power they dumped into the ground, but enough that it caused the 2-point-something earthquake next to the power plant. And we saw another one, 3.1 earthquake, a bigger earthquake, much bigger, a full magnitude larger, struck next to the LaSalle nuclear power plant in South Illinois. We got another 3-point-something earthquake next to the Fulton, Missouri nuclear power plant. We got another 6.0 earthquake, 5.9, that shook the whole East Coast in 2011 next to the Lake Anna Cocoon nuclear power plant in Virginia, in Mineral, Virginia. And of course, we got the 9.0 earthquake next to the Fukushima power plant over here in Japan. Just a few examples off the top of my head. I could give you 1,000 more next to hydroelectric dams, even though there's no water, no water weight earthquakes to justify it. So that kind of stuff. And then, of course, going along the transmission lines, the electrical transmission lines between these locations, the earthquakes will follow that. So why? The very low frequency, the electrical frequency that's in the plate, can match and meet the man-made frequency above ground, 100 feet, 200 feet on transmission lines, and the electromagnetic fields collide in what's called a scalar, which is just a complex term to describe an area where the two electromagnetic fields collide, the one down at the plate, the other man-made up above, whether it's a coal fire, gas, nuclear power plant. When those match, you get an earthquake next to the location where the man-made power generation is taking place. It's crazy. Happens all over the world that way. We could probably go look up the earthquakes around the world right now and find many of them next to power generation facilities directly. It's wild. That being said, what does it prove? Proves there's some kind of electrical wave in the plate. And now that we know that, earthquakes aren't, we can start to get our heads around earthquakes not being random events, but that they're precipitated by an outside force, or a greater force, I could call it that. A greater force causes the earthquakes. And now that we know what force causes that, a very low frequency or greater, extremely low frequency in the plate, and it's coming up from down below, which it's coming up from the core. And then this gets into the core. And again, another hot water mess with the professionals, because it turns out the core may be made of some kind of electroplasma, which is reflecting like it's a solid. Plasmas reflect shock waves like solids. Boeing has patented the electromagnetic shockwave repeller device. It's a force field. It's an arc generator. It's literally generating lightning bolts, and the lightning bolts reflect shock waves from explosions, and it protects a Humvee, and it can protect a tank. But it's really just an electrical arc generator that they strap to a Humvee, and when it detects an explosion, the electrical arc is generated out from the vehicle a few feet, and then the incoming shock wave is deflected away. The shrapnel still hits the vehicle, though, but the shock wave that would blow over the vehicle is deflected away like a force field. It's amazing. But now that we know that, plasmas, electroplasmas, reflect shock waves, well, now we understand what the core of the Earth is reflecting seismic waves with. That's why professionals thought that the core of the Earth was solid metal. But it's an electroplasma. It's emitting a powerful electromagnetic field way out into space. It's hot enough to melt anything like a plasma torch, and it's not weight and pressure causing things to melt. If you wanted to melt something, would you just put a bunch of weight on top of it? Never mind. We could get into philosophical debates about the core of the Earth, but the point is that there's some kind of very low frequency coming up from down in the core or near the core, and that's hitting the undersides of the plates. This we can now know for certain that that's happening. So these are all big discoveries, and it's kind of, got me a little excited again, because I got out of it for a little while. You guys know that, again, I managed to piss off the oil companies. They offered me a sponsorship. If you don't know the story, Halliburton, IBM, and USGS offered 3 guys who are the head of global IT for Halliburton, global IT head head of global IT for the USGS, and the company that owns the proprietary rights to Watson, IBM supercomputer program now. It's a software program, Watson. They offered me a sponsorship, $3,000 a month to start. And they didn't tell me that the guys were from Halliburton. They put up a front company, if you want to call it that. They started a puppet company to offer me the sponsorship with at $3,000 a month to start. They billed themselves as a search engine company. Well, I did a search on the company. When they offered the money, I mean, I'm going to search them to find out what the deal is with the company, just like my trolls and my haters online would. You know, everybody's all up your business when you collect money online. I don't blame anybody, right? Like you find out that somebody's getting sponsored, you want to know who's sponsoring them. So I did a deep level search on the company and I found their board of directors. It was a corporation, not just a LLC. It was an actual company with a corporate, and they had their own CEO and CFO and CTO. And there's their names. And I looked up each guy. Top guy, global IT, vice president of global IT for Halliburton. Top guy. Then guy below him, head of USGS. It wasn't called global IT, but it was USGS, International Information Technology. And then the third guy was from IBM Watson with the supercomputer, had just tried to do earthquake forecasting with Watson in like 2017, somewhere in that time frame, and it failed. Watson failed because it wasn't using the correct. Obviously, it wasn't using my method. I hadn't published it yet. I was still doing my research at the time publicly. Well, they came along and said, well, we want you to start doing your earthquake forecast, and we'll put it on the front page of our search engine company that we're starting. And we'll offer you this money. And I go, okay. Well, when I found the three guys, I'm like, Halliburton, IBM, and USGS on a search engine company? What is this? So I contact the guy immediately. I said, what is this? And he says, don't worry, it's just chance. Now, you guys know about me, stats, chance, and all that stuff. I tested my luck. Scientifically, I tested my luck. A professor who we will leave unnamed, he's since been embarrassed. I don't want to embarrass him even further. But he said that I was just getting lucky with my earthquake forecasting. That's how I was getting the locations correct. I was luck, he said. And I decided to test my luck and had my viewers send me scratch-off lotto tickets from around the world. What better way to test your luck, right? I could have come rich. Yeah, well, my wife will tell you I'm not lucky. Yeah, I scratched off every one of those damn things. I won $5 from California. Oh, no, $25 from California. You had to go there in person to cash the lotto ticket. You couldn't mail it in. All the rest of them I lost. It was unbelievable how unlucky I was. Like 100 different tickets, and I literally won once. It was so funny to actually do it. I did it on a live stream, too, so nobody could say I was faking being bad lucked. Because people online are such jerks that they'll even accuse you of faking having bad luck. So that being said, I'm an unlucky person who unfortunately discovered a pattern in earthquakes that led to a series of scientific debacles of professionals who said things couldn't be done without being able to prove it. Turns out you should never say something can't be done. You should give some wiggle room for yourself, like, I don't think it can be done, or something like that, so that way you can backtrack a little when somebody does it. Never say never. That's another thing I've learned. Okay. These are all scientific principles, I promise you. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the story. If you're a new person, I welcome into the stream. We don't normally go on these kind of rants. Normally, it's much more personal. But this is social media. You're not here for science, are you? Now, we could talk one more thing about the seismic activity reaching out to not just electrical points in the plate, but also perforation points in the plate. Every earthquake from Texas through Arkansas here, every single earthquake, let me turn down the rings so you can see where each one is. There we go. Every single earthquake is directly next to an oil well, through Texas, up to Oklahoma, over to Arkansas. So it's not just power generation locations. When this wave is going through a location, it will seek out a path of least resistance. It's electrical in nature, but it's passing around things like a waveguide in a microwave. And as it goes through an area that's perforated with oil wells, for instance, or gas wells, fracking and so forth, those deep shafts that go down and sometimes at angles and even right angles act like underground antennas, if you want to think of it that way, and they collect the vibration from the seismic wave that's going through the plate, this very low frequency. It's electrical in nature, but it's vibrating through the plate like a standing wave. It seeks out these drill points along the way and drops off earthquakes along the way at the weak points. Equidistantly spaced, too. Check it out. Standing wave style, like in a pool. Like you're splashing up and down in a pool with a raft, and the wave goes across to the edge of the pool, and then it reflects back into itself. And you do it again, and the wave starts to build in size as it reflects into itself, and you do another jump, and it does another wave, and it pumps back to yourself. And if you do that enough in a pool, it will start knocking other people off their rafts. And if you do it in an above ground pool, you can collapse the sides of the pool. I learned that from experience as a child. Got in trouble for that. I didn't know that was called a standing wave then, though. I think my parents called it screwing around. 48 now. I'm 48 years old now. So a rare earthquake struck down in New Mexico. Gee, USGS, do you want to tell me something? You want to tell me your... I didn't know that they had proctologists that worked at the USGS. Do they also specialize in endoscoping? I better check my toilet for a camera from the USGS. That's logarithmic, you know what I mean? We got the logarithmic camera in Dutch's toilet. We're seeing... Let me tell you a quick fun story. The USGS. Now, I know that there's been a lot of controversy online about Elon Musk, who does not like me, apparently. Everybody told me he does. They said he didn't know who I was. Well, we found out he knows who I was. They told me he doesn't like me. Okay. Whatever. Oh, man. But I found that the USGS, there's this Doge thing that that everybody was talking about. They were all up in arms about Doge and, is it this or that? Well, I went through and did a grant search using the Doge tools that everybody can have access to search grants and see if there's any waste going on. And I searched a bunch of keyword terms, and I came up with the USGS, go figure. And guess what I found the USGS paying for? This is hilarious. They're paying people to watch the grass grow in the shrub. I'm sorry. Hold on. Technical term. Shrubs. The shrub observation community in Nevada is concerned about solar panels causing excess shrub growth. I'm not kidding now. Excess shrub growth in Nevada below the solar panels out in the desert, right? Because there's shade, right? And it's retaining moisture because there's shade. And so it's altering the environment, they're worried, right? There's so many solar panel farms out there that they're altering the environment. So we got to do a study, get 500 grand to go study this, pay some people to go out there and go watch the grass grow. And that's what they're doing. Then, after finding that, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God, this is total wasteful. I found that the USGS was doing some political stuff. Again, this gets into the Doge stuff. I'm not trying to get political, but this is hilarious. USGS, starting in 2019, somewhere in that range, right at the end of the Trump presidency, decided they were going to start listening for migration at the border along Trump's border wall. Migration of birds, you see. What the USGS needed to do was to go down and install a bunch of high-definition microphones all the way along the border wall and to listen for birds chirping at night because they're worried that the border wall on the ground is going to interfere with birds navigating, flying in the air at night by the stars. So what we need to do, you see, Dutch, is to get a few $1 million, and we need to go down there, and we need to install the microphones, and we need to listen for migratory birds. I'm telling you, the grift on this. Then, to seal the deal, I found out that we built a 4x4 four-wheeling park on the Ivory Coast of Africa and bought them a bus to take you there, and it was for people from the UN to go four-wheeling in Africa for fun. That was $1.5 million. I found this stuff. I reported it to the Department of Interior and reported it, and it got cut. How about tracking orangutans in Indonesia using new high-tech drone technology so that we can do it remotely from a glamping tent? Now, I'm not kidding. Glamping. You know what glamping is? It's glamour camping. So they bought these really nice glamping tents, the kind you would see at the Burning Man festival. I'm not kidding. And they had to take them to Indonesia. This is like an episode of Ultimate Waste. And they had to transport it there and set up shop and everything. And instead of going out in the jungle to hunt orangutans, they need to fly drones around, you see? So we have to buy a bunch of high-tech drones. And we're doing this in Indonesia because we're so concerned about the orangutan population there. How about another $3 million for specialty coffee communities down in Peru? And the money wasn't going to them. It's going to some Brazilian labor farm or something. I'm finding this stuff as I'm searching for USGS terms, by the way. So, I couldn't believe what I was finding. I reported it all. No wonder they don't like me. Nobody loves me. That's okay. If everybody likes you, that means you're doing everything wrong. The more people that don't like you, the better you're doing, I think, in this day and age. But finding out that Trump and Musk don't like me, I don't know. No love lost, I guess. I don't know. What else do you do? What do you do when you piss off the oil companies and they own everybody? You shut up and you go away and you talk about other things other than oil wells. That's the world of science for you. So I hope you're doing well. I'm mind blown to see the rare earthquake down in New Mexico. That lets me know that the USGS people are paying deep attention to everything that I'm doing in my regular life. You see, today we had a run-in with somebody from there. So we had a run-in with somebody from that location today. So to see an earthquake get reported there today it's almost like somebody at the USGS is playing games again. Could be. They might be bored tonight. What do you think? Trying to send a message? No shit, Sherlock. Pardon my language. That's a scientific term. No feces, Frank. Right? I mean, let me just tell you. I already know that you know everything that I'm doing. Every move that I make, everything that I do, I already know. We already know. We don't care. The days of bothering us are over. Now I just kind of do what I am. Here's what's going to blow your mind. We now know of a location that is a 5-sided pentagonal star fort, bastion fort, that's leftover remnants are in the St. Louis area. And I know where the exact middle of this place is. And I just found it. Take that to the bank and smoke it. Is that what you say? Take it to the bank? Well, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Take that to the bank. Take that to the bank and smoke it. What have I been smoking? Nothing yet, but maybe we should. We're just joking around now. Again, you'll find that if you're a new viewer of mine, that I like to joke around a lot because we spend a lot of time talking about boring seismic events that normally don't get much attention from anybody. I mean, who cares about a 5 out in the ocean, right? Or 6 down in the middle of the plate boundary south of New Zealand where nobody could feel it. Most people don't care about earthquakes they don't feel. But again, it's like the weather. You have to pay attention to the small things so that you can understand when the big things are about to happen. Your warning for this week still stands. You guys are welcome to go review it if it was recorded. I don't know if anybody got that on recording. Did they? I guess I should have. One of my haters recorded it somewhere. Anyway, I did a forecast a couple days ago, and it's out there. You guys are welcome to go try and find it somewhere. And I will be back with an actual forecast recorded in a video and put on YouTube at some point. But we've been laying low ever since I found out that Musk and Trump don't like me. I don't want to cause any more problems for myself. I've already got enough problems. I don't need a billionaire and another billionaire, the two most powerful people in the world right now, to not be digging on me. I'll lay low, you know. You know what's sad about all this is that I'm not really political, am I? Oh, I need to be. Oh, yo, aren't you funny? Yeah. Let me go. I'm sure there's plenty of money for that, plenty of financing for that. I'll drop science and just go into political science. It's still science. Okay. Much love to all of you guys. Thank you for putting up with my sordid sense of humor. And thank you for being aware on seismic events. Let me remind everybody, if you want to know how to do your own forecasting and skip all the BS with me, you can do it yourself. There's step-by-step instructions over on my channel. It's free to watch. It's in text version. And I was able to even get AI to do it. So, I mean, if we got teenagers doing it now at this point, get it down to 200 miles. If you do the method the way it's published, you should be able to get earthquake forecasting down to 200 miles area within 1 magnitude and within 7 days' time. It's a good start for where we need to be for doing basic seismic forecasting. And that's my contribution to the world. I'm sure smarter people than I am will be able to refine it, and it'll be like in the future there will be earthquake forecasting models much like hurricane forecasting models currently exist, using my method and other people's methods along the way. And in case you don't know, other people have showed up trying to take my method from me, falsely saying that they developed the method. You see, as soon as a method starts working and you prove that it works, other grifters show up and try and take it from you. And so a solar guy on YouTube showed up. That's the big solar channel. He showed up and tried to say that I took his earthquake forecasting method, and that's how I got my method. Okay, an alien lady, one of the alien people. I'm not a UFO guy, right? Like, I'm not going off on you if you guys believe in that kind of stuff. But again, one of the Zeta alien people or whatever. She's the leader of the Zeta alien group, going all the way back to Coast AM, George Norrie, and all that stuff. Anyway, she showed up and falsely accused me of stealing earthquake forecasting from her in 2010. These people are so bizarre. So we got Big Solar accusing me of taking it from him. We got the alien lady accusing me of taking it from her. And meanwhile, neither of these people have ever published shit on her. And all I got to say is that if you want to do your own earthquake forecasting, you can do it on your own without having to listen to my ass at all. Pardon my language, but we're just keeping it real. We're online. We're not trying to be in a classroom. Much love. Thank you for putting up with me. I'll be back. We'll try and play some music in just a little bit. Oh, and please subscribe to my channel if you like what I do, or at least give me a shot. Give me a chance. Give me a chance to be proper at some point for you, okay? Please, please subscribe. I'm begging you, man. You ever hear anybody do that? They're always like, hey, YouTube, what's crack-a-lack? And they all sound all confident. You ever hear anybody beg to please? Oh, guys. I had to try that. In my next YouTube video, I'll start it out begging for mercy from the audience. You guys are all real burnout on social media, but could you please? Yeah, right. I know that would be hilarious. I know it would work. It might work. Okay. Yes. Yeah, I know, right? I'm goofing around too much tonight. I'm in a good mood. We got some other good things going on in real life, so at least good mood tonight. Peace out. I'll be back.